They are printing money again. The US government is printing money again. Do you know what that means? That means the dollar is done. Inflation is about to... No, sit down. That is not what happened. I built an 8-figure net worth by actually understanding how money works. And there is something big going on behind the scenes here, but it's not what you think. Now, this week, the government bought a bunch of short-term IOUs, and everyone's like, oh my God, the money printer is back on. Except that's not actually how it works. Every night, banks lend money to one another for one night. It's like them coming in and saying, hey, can I borrow $20 so that my account balance is actually balanced? That's called the overnight lending market. And if banks don't lend to each other, the whole system gets shaky. But recently, banks started getting weird. They started holding onto their money, hoarding their money instead of sharing it. Money stopped flowing smoothly. It's like when someone in the group chat suddenly goes silent, you know something is up. So the Fed basically said, okay, children, if you won't share, then I'm stepping in. So they bought these IOUs so the banks would have extra cash to keep sharing with each other overnight.
So, the economy's broken, the government's lying, and everyone's got a theory about who's to blame. At least, that's what the internet wants you to believe. Today, we're cutting through a compilation of panic, fraud allegations, market meltdowns, and people absolutely convinced the sky is falling. Some of it's real, some of it's noise, and some of it, pure hypocrisy. Because here's the pattern. Folks who spent years screaming, "Government, stay out of my life," are now the loudest voices demanding bailouts when things go south. People who wanted free market capitalism suddenly want intervention when they're the ones losing. And that's the real story here. Not the headlines, but the contradiction underneath them. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's separate what's actually happening from what people are selling you.
Now, this is where it affects you. When money isn't floating around behind the scenes, mortgages can get harder to qualify for, interest rates can jump, banks get stingier, businesses pull back, hiring slows. So basically, yeah, you will feel the ripple effects even if you don't actually know where it's coming from. So no, they didn't just print money. That's not money that's just going back into the system that can increase inflation because now you have more money to spend. They didn't devalue the dollar or make inflation worse with this. But here's the thing you actually need to pay attention to, the real signal. If banks stop lending to each other, they stop trusting each other enough to give each other money overnight, that means something under the surface is starting to strain. And wealthy people, we watch that like a heartbeat. Now, if you want part 2, like what this actually means for your money, what this means for your investments, I need you to follow along because the real story here isn't that they bought these IOUs, it's why they had to.
Hold up. So the Fed does routine overnight lending, something they've done for decades, and suddenly everyone's screaming, money printer, go brr. This is standard monetary plumbing. Banks need short-term liquidity every single night to balance their books. When they stop lending to each other, the Fed steps in. That's literally what central banks exist for. Is it concerning that banks are hoarding cash? Yeah, it means they're nervous about something. Could be commercial real estate, could be regulatory pressure, could be a dozen things. But it's not printing money the way people think. This isn't creating inflation out of thin air. It's more like keeping the blood flowing in the financial system's veins. Should you pay attention? Absolutely. When banks don't trust each other, that's a warning sign. But turning it into the dollar is dead is diagnosing yourself with cancer because you sneezed twice. Context matters. Maybe listen to actual economists instead of someone whose last business was selling crypto courses.
Breaking news out of Louisiana, where the FBI claims they have arrested 5 people from a pro-Palestine group in connection to a plot to set off IED, improvised explosive devices, on New Year's Eve, targeting 5 separate locations. They call this the Turtle Island Liberation Front, which they say is a extremist group motivated by pro-Palestine and anti-law enforcement and anti-government ideology. And Kash Patel says that there was outstanding work by their investigators and enforcement partners at the Justice Department. Now, I do want to give a very big disclaimer here. Kash Patel is incompetent and unqualified for his job as FBI director, so I would not take this information at face value. It may be untrue. Well, at least the accusations, the arrests are probably true. In the days since, FBI New Orleans arrested an additional 5th
Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, has some explaining to do. I'm not sure how this is not on every news outlet going right now. So many Americans have no idea that this fraud has even taken place. The exposed Somali fraud in Minnesota has reached a whopping $1 billion. The fraud occurred using at least 3 schemes. including housing assistance and autism service programs. 86 individuals have been charged with nearly 60 convicted. Why is no one questioning this governor about all this fraud? Why are no news stations running that this fraud has taken place? It absolutely makes sense now why Kamala Harris picked him for vice president. Just think, this man could have been our vice president. Thank God that did not happen.
Okay, so massive fraud in Minnesota. People have been convicted. Money was stolen. That's infuriating, and it should be prosecuted. And it was. But let's pump the brakes on making this about one person who wasn't even running these programs day to day. Fraud happens everywhere. Red states, blue states, doesn't matter. Where there's money changing hands, someone's trying to game the system. That's human nature, not a feature of one political party. What matters? Did the system catch it? Yes. Were people prosecuted? Yes. 86 charged, nearly 60 convicted. That's not a cover-up. That's law enforcement working. If you're genuinely concerned about waste and fraud, great. Be consistent. Demand accountability everywhere. But if you only care when it fits your narrative, that's not principle. That's selective outrage.
Hope you guys are all having a wonderful Friday. Let me know your thoughts respectfully, please, in the comments. God bless each of you.
Shocking news today about a popular Charlotte brewery owner. Sycamore co-owner Justin Brigham has been arrested in Stanley County. The arrest warrants say 44-year-old Brigham broke into a home and raped a 13-year-old girl on Wednesday. Now, the co-owner, which is his wife, posted this to their Instagram page. The statement reads, "To our employees, customers, and partners, I'm devastated by the charges against Justin and the pain this has inflicted on our family and others." Adding, "Effective immediately, I am assuming full leadership of the company. Justin is divesting all of his interests and will have no further involvement." Now, other people that we spoke to say they have no plans on coming to Sycamore after hearing this news, but there were some other people that said now that the wife has full ownership of the business, they plan to come out and support her.
Investors are fleeing the United States. Well, at least their money is.
Investors are fleeing. The market had a rough week, so clearly everyone's abandoning America, right? Let me ground this. Market volatility is normal. 2-day recoveries followed by sell-offs. That's just markets being markets. It's not a straight line. It never has been. Are some investors diversifying internationally? Sure. That's smart portfolio management. If you think domestic equities are overheated or policy is creating uncertainty, you rotate capital. That's what professionals do. But fleeing? The U.S. market is still the deepest, most liquid, most stable equity market on the planet. Even during choppy periods, trillions still park here because compared to everywhere else, we're the safest bet. Here's what you should actually do. Zoom out. Look at 10-year trends. Diversify your holdings. Stop checking your 401k every 6 hours. And maybe stop treating your retirement like a sports betting app. Panic sells clicks, but staying calm builds wealth.
According to financial experts, the reason we are seeing such massive fluctuations in the stock market, which last week you had about a 2-day recovery, which was great, and then the end of the week, everything went to hell once again. And according to these financial experts, the financial analysts, the reason for this is because your big high-dollar investors are the ones pulling their money out. So they are fleeing the United States, financially speaking. And instead, according to the financial experts, what they're doing is they're sending their money to overseas markets. Right? Let's get out of the U.S. stock market because Donald Trump is tanking it every time he says the word tariff. And instead, we're going to go put it in other countries. We're going to put it in their stocks. We're going to put it in their businesses. In other words, the people with the most money are putting that money in other countries and helping those economies while ours continues to go down the toilet.
So Trump supporters, if you're not worried now about the economy, now is the time to be worried. Nebraska, Tyson Foods. They're the largest meat producer in the country. They're closing their Nebraska beef processing plant because of Trump economics. Cattle costs have risen $2 billion because of Trump's tariffs, and it has resulted in a net loss of $425 million in 2025 to date for Tyson Foods. So they're closing their meat packing plant, and 3,200 employees in this small town with only 11,000 residents are losing their jobs. 3,200 employees, and I can guarantee a vast majority voted for this. And it doesn't end there. Tyson is taking their 3-shift slaughter operation in Texas down to 1 shift. So a lot more people at their Texas facility are going to be let go. When you talk about big industries now being affected, not the small guy, but those at the top of the food chain being impacted and closing down, we are in a world of economic hurt. And this is just the beginning, because this Trump administration is not focused on fixing the problem. They keep creating more. And I got to tell you, just this Tyson food location in Nevada, there are so many suppliers, so many vendors, contractors every single day that did work for this Tyson facility, whether inside the building or outside the building. These are big contracts that these local businesses are now going to lose. So they're going to be affected as well. Expect more layoffs and bankruptcies downstream of Tyson Foods.
This one's brutal. Tyson closing a plant in Nebraska, 3,200 jobs gone in a town of 11,000 people. That's not just layoffs, that's a community getting gutted. Rising cattle costs are part of it, yeah. But let's be real, this isn't just about one factor. This is consolidation, automation, and corporate decision-making that prioritizes profit margins over people. Tyson's been under pressure for years. Labor costs, regulations, shifting consumer demand. And here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of these communities voted for the policies that accelerated this. They wanted deregulation, which means corporations have more freedom to close plants when it suits their bottom line. They wanted protective tariffs, which just made input costs skyrocket. You can't demand let business do what it wants and then act shocked when business does exactly that, and it hurts you. The downstream effects are devastating too. Every supplier, every contractor, every small business that relied on that plant, they're next. That's how economic shocks work. They don't stop at one factory. They ripple outward. What's the fix? Economic transitions are brutal, especially for towns built around single industries. Retraining, infrastructure investment, diversification, all of that takes time, money, and political will. And step one is admitting the old model isn't coming back. But you can't fix what you refuse to acknowledge.
Huge breaking news right now. The United States just canceled the third quarter GDP report. Take a wild guess as to why.
The latest pardon is going to blow your mind. I'm Liz Oyer, the former pardon attorney for the Department of Justice. This is Joseph Schwartz. He owned a nursing home empire called Skyline with facilities in 11 states. Schwartz stole $38 million from the paychecks of his employees, money that was supposed to cover their health care and retirement benefits. Schwartz pleaded guilty to tax fraud, and in April of this year, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. But last week, Donald Trump granted him a full pardon after he served just 3 months of his sentence. This is a strange pardon even for Trump, because back in April, Trump's hand-picked U.S. attorney, Alina Habba, issued a press release publicly thanking all of the agents and investigators who helped put Schwartz in prison. So why did Schwartz get a pardon? Trump hasn't told us, but here's what we know. Earlier this year, Schwartz paid 2 lobbyists $960,000 to seek a pardon for him. We know that because the lobbyists filed this disclosure form, which is required by law. So who are these lobbyists? Their names are Jack Berkman and Jacob Wohl. They are far-right conspiracy theorists and convicted felons. They're known for elaborate scams, including several failed attempts to
Presidential pardons. Everyone's favorite constitutional power that gets completely abused every administration. This nursing home owner stole $38 million from employees, money meant for healthcare and retirement, got convicted, served 3 months, and then got pardoned. Why? Because he paid lobbyists almost $1 million to make it happen, which is legal, but completely insane. This is the system working exactly as designed. If you've got money and connections, rules are suggestions. Steal from working people, you'll be fine. Just hire the right lobbyists. Meanwhile, people sit in prison for years over nonviolent drug offenses. But a guy who robbed the elderly? 3 months and a pardon. You want to fix this? End private lobbying for pardons. Require transparency. Create independent oversight. Stop pretending justice isn't for sale.
The $1 billion welfare fraud scandal in Minnesota was enabled by DEI. Let me explain. Between 2020 and now, federal prosecutors say that more than $1 billion was stolen from Minnesota's social service programs and funneled to fraudulent nonprofits like Feeding Our Future. These organizations claim services for tens of thousands of children who didn't exist. Instead, taxpayer dollars went to funding luxury houses, high-end cars, jewelry, overseas real estate projects, and worst of all, Al-Shabaab, an Islamist terrorist group in Somalia. Now, new reporting shows that the Minnesota Department of Education officials noticed red flags early. They questioned invoices that made no mathematical sense. They noticed new feeding centers were registered in strip malls that were basically empty. They saw providers claiming to serve more meals than there were children living in entire zip codes. And every time they tried to investigate, they were hit with the same accusation. If you expose this, it's racist. That's because Feeding Our Future was run by American citizens of Somali heritage. When the state began scrutinizing their applications, the organization filed a discrimination complaint with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights and later sued the Department of Education, accusing it of racial bias and discrimination. Feeding Our Future weaponized DEI by telling the Minnesota Department of Education that failing to promptly approve new applicants from minority-owned businesses would result in a lawsuit featuring accusations of racism that would be sprawled across the news. In the post-George Floyd climate, that threat carried enormous political power. So agencies backed off, approvals kept flowing, and the fraud exploded. Most of the people charged in this fraud are a tiny fraction of Minnesota's Somali community, which is now stuck with the stigma created by a small group of offenders and a state government too scared to enforce basic rules. Minnesota is now shutting down programs, launching audits, and trying to rebuild oversight that should never have collapsed in the first place. What happened wasn't just fraud. It was fraud that thrived because people put the desire to prop up diversity, equity, and inclusion over reality. And in the end, the taxpayers and residents of Minnesota are the real losers.
So we're blaming DEI for fraud now? That's a stretch. Fraud happened. People exploited the system. They should be prosecuted. But saying DEI caused this completely misses the point. Here's what actually happened. Scammers weaponized accusations of racism to avoid scrutiny. That's manipulation, not policy failure. And manipulative people have always found ways to dodge accountability, long before DEI existed. The real issue? Weak oversight, insufficient auditing, bureaucrats too scared to enforce rules because of political pressure, not because they cared about equity, but because they cared about their jobs. Fraud thrives where accountability is weak, always has. Red states, blue states, doesn't matter. When there's money and no one's watching, someone's stealing it. Blame the criminals. Demand better oversight. But stop scapegoating policies designed to address discrimination.
Huge breaking news right now. The United States just canceled the third quarter GDP report. Take a wild guess as to why.
Welcome to the land of the free 2025. Do we have free healthcare? No. Free accommodation for the elderly? Absolutely not. Do we have free housing for the homeless? Absolutely not. Do we have free education? No. Do we have free food? No. So wait, what's free? Oh, you're free to live the way life you want, but everything else is extremely expensive. Sorry.
Welcome to the land of the free, where nothing's free. Yeah, that's capitalism. Nobody promised free stuff. The freedom was always about opportunity, not handouts. But here's the uncomfortable part. We do subsidize tons of things, just not the things regular people see. Corporate tax breaks? Trillions. Agricultural subsidies? Billions. Bank bailouts? Massive. Oil and gas subsidies? Enormous. But healthcare? Too expensive. College? Can't afford it. Housing assistance? That's socialism. We haven't decided we can't afford these things. We've decided not to prioritize them. We subsidize corporations, but helping people directly is handouts. A billionaire gets a tax break for buying a jet. A teacher can't deduct more than $300 for classroom supplies. That's not freedom. That's a choice. And it's working exactly as designed, just not for you.
I own a business in San Diego. I opened it a couple of years on the side of my 9-to-5 job. I work full-time in tech sales, but I've been building my business over the past 2 years. It's called Bode. We are a work and social club. Essentially, we have two now, which is crazy to even say, co-working spaces in La Jolla. They're not what you would typically think of a co-working space. They're very boutique, more like lounge, living room type. I should just show you because I'm in it right now. This is our newest space. It's called The Porch. Also, no one's in here right now, but I absolutely love it in here this time of night. Also, it's not even night, it's just 5 p.m., but the sun sets so early right now. Look at how beautiful it is outside. During the day, these are pretty much open always for some fresh air. But let me take you outside. This is the porch. So pretty. We kind of have an ocean view, kind of. Obviously, everything's all closed up, but this is some outdoor seating. So you can work outside. Just look at the sunset. That's crazy. Every now and then I have to pinch myself that this is like my business. That was once an idea in my head and now it just exists in real life. Here's another little view of the space. Very proud of our Christmas tree. I feel like it's very cute. There's a private phone booth so you can take calls like Zoom calls, meetings, what have you. It's noise canceling. Freaking love this thing. This was such an investment and also really hard to build. So it is my pride and joy. And then our little kitchen area. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I just can't get over the sunset from here. Are you joking? That is just so cool and so pretty to me. Anyways, the reason I'm here is because I wanted to set up a hot chocolate bar for our members tomorrow, for whoever comes in for their day pass. I'm also doing this for my clients for my 9-to-5 job, and I was like, I might as well do this for my Bode members too. So how cute is this little topping setup? This is like a hazelnut, cinnamon, sugar, some peppermint, little crumbly thingies, and then obviously the marshmallows. I'm gonna come in early tomorrow before my workout and actually make the hot chocolate, so it'll be here ready for everybody. But I just wanted everything mostly set up. So all I have to do tomorrow is just come in and make the hot chocolate. I also got these cute little cups. So festive. Okay. There is my cute little hot chocolate bar. I'm obsessed. This is not a lot, but I'm obsessed. I also realized that it'll be easier for me to make the hot chocolate at home with the little jug thingy because I can just do the boiling water at home, make it hot that way instead of having to do that here. So I'll just make it at home in the morning and bring that over. But all the toppings are here now, which I think are very cute. Okay, with that, I'm going to head home, but if you are watching this and you've never heard of Bode or you've heard of Bode and you've thought about coming and checking it out but have been hesitant or curious or whatever it is and you haven't done it, you guys should definitely come. We have memberships available. We also do drop-in day passes, and we have a new member preview pack for the porch, which is 6 day passes for $99, I think. So it's a really good deal to come and check it out and see if it's something that you could see yourself adding to your routine before you sign up for a membership. And then our membership options start at $89 a month. And then our unlimited membership, which is as many day passes as you want, guest passes, private office space, all that good stuff, is $300 a month. So yeah, hopefully that helps. If you guys have any questions about Bode, let me know. I always go back and forth with what to share about Bode, or if you guys even find it interesting, or if there's stuff that you would want to know about opening a brick and mortar style business. I'm obviously not an expert. I've made so many mistakes along the way. So I feel sometimes I don't feel qualified to speak on things too much, but if you have specific questions, I'm obviously happy to share my experience, because it is pretty crazy to look back. I get very reflective this time of year, but it is crazy to be going into 2026. I'm 30 years old, recently engaged, which is crazy. We're planning our wedding, and I don't know. It's just really fun that I've spent so much time and money transparently the past couple of years building something that just exists in the world and genuinely brings me so much joy. And I know that it's added a lot of value to other people's lives as well. And so every time I'm in here, amidst all of the stress that it's brought me and lack of sleep and anxiety and some money, it's all been really stressful, but I look around and I come in here and I get to do little cheesy things like this, make a hot chocolate bar for our members, and I just feel very at peace with everything and transparently just very proud that I somehow pulled this off and that it exists and that it helps people. And I think that that's really, at the end of the day, just hopefully it can help make people's days feel a little bit lighter, help get you out of your house, help you maybe meet someone new, build community, feel a little bit more productive, get inspired. I don't know, all the things that it's done for me, I hope it does for other people. So with that, I'm gonna leave, but love you guys. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions about Bode. Bye.
That last segment was genuinely refreshing. Someone excited about building something they care about, a co-working space, community, a place where people feel productive and connected. That's the antidote to all the chaos. While everyone's screaming about collapse, there are people out here just building, creating, making their corner better. They didn't wait for someone to fix everything. They worked full-time, saved money, took a risk, and built something real. Not for clout, just because they wanted to. Less doom scrolling, more doing. Less complaining, more creating. You can't control the Fed or the stock market, but you can control what you build and who you help. Shout out to everyone grinding and trying to make life better. That's what actually matters. So what'd we learn? The internet's really good at turning complex issues into panic porn, and it's exhausting. But most of this isn't new. Fraud happens. Markets fluctuate. Industries change. What's different is how amplified everything is now. Every data point becomes a 5-alarm fire. Some of this is real. Job losses hurt. Economic uncertainty sucks. But the answer isn't panic or tribalism. It's staying informed and rational. Call out hypocrisy. Demand accountability. But recognize the world isn't ending every time someone says it is. Economics is messy. Politics is frustrating. But we've survived worse. Drop a comment. What stood out to you? Smash that like if you made it this far. Share with someone who needs perspective. Stay sharp. Stay skeptical. Panic is profitable. But clarity, that's power. See you next time.